Here we can talk about the 10 biggest challenges facing the world today in 2020.
Coronaviruses are a group of related RNA viruses that causes diseases in mammals and birds. In humans, these viruses cause respiratory tract infections that can range from mild to lethal. Mild illness includes some cases of common cold, while more lethal varieties can cause SARS, MERS, and COVID-19. Symptoms in other species vary. In chickens, they cause an upper respiratory tract disease, while in cows and pigs, they cause diarrhea. There are as yet no vaccines or antiviral drugs to prevent or treat human coronavirus infections.
It was no surprise, particularly 2020, when SARS-CoV-2 was declared as pandemic. It's an airborne virus or a disease transmitted by fomites can spread quickly with potentially devastating consequences. At the outset, the biggest challenge is being prepared for epidemics of a new virus. More challenge to deal with their stress, the timing, how much they work, the anxiety, the insomnia, or to address the psychological trauma. And finally, earning people trust is the prime importance. Effective, rapid responsive leadership and clarity in pandemic guidelines and collaboration with primary healthcare are essential to beat this outbreak. Thank you.
While we have witnessed a global health threat named COVID-19 in the last few months, the spread of information about the pandemic has been much faster than the virus itself. As billions are being isolated in their homes in an attempt to contain the infection, digital screen time has increased. Information pollution about COVID every single day adds to the already existing uncertainty and panic about the virus and the lockdown. People have often been seen with their eyes glued to their televisions, laptops, or mobile screens, busy consuming news feeds related to coronavirus. This often assumes a compulsive nature, with the need to stay updated about every single facet of the illness. The impact that the information or misinformation can have on human behavior is remarkable. Maintaining a conscious and informed distance from the social media can help increase the COVID-free time, which is so necessary for mental well-being.
Unemployment is a very serious issue all around the world. There are hundreds and thousands of people out there who do not have employment. Moreover, if we neglect this problem, then it will become the reason for the doom of every nation. What is unemployment? Unemployment refers to a situation in which skilled and talented people wanted to do a job but cannot find a proper job due to several reasons. Also, the situation has become so drastic that highly educated people are ready to do a job of a sweeper. In a country like India, the various reasons for the larger section of the society being unemployed. Some of these factors being population growth, economic growth, etc.
The coronavirus pandemic will soon be a thing of the past. Tens of millions of daily wage earners and even blue and white collar workers have suddenly found themselves out of jobs. Large-scale unemployment is here to stay, particularly among the rural population, increase in starvation deaths, and even large-scale social unrest. Economies of most countries, even those with robust GDP growth rates exceeding 8%, will certainly contract this year. Several industries have been crippled and would continue to remain so in fear that such a pandemic could arise again, must be lifted forthwith, and the sense of fear replaced by hope and confidence.
We
are witnessing today in Antarctic and Greenland is changing the circulation of the Atlantic Ocean and has been linked to collapse of fisheries in the Gulf of Maine and more destructive storms and hurricanes around the planet.
Unprivileged students are deprived of the basic facilities at school. There are 32 million Indian children of the age up to 13 years old that have never attended any school, and when it comes to quality education, there are an extreme shortage of qualified and dedicated teachers. Free education along with a midday meal is not enough to make education attractive. Education is the prime way through which the unprivileged can escape the cycle of poverty. The government has brought in changes in the education sector to deliver education with equality in post-COVID India. In order to ensure poor children who don't have access to high-speed internet also get an education.
The biggest challenge for education in 2020 is going to be the aftermath of the coronavirus situation. Blended learning will become a norm, but most schools are not equipped either through their human resources or the digital infrastructure required to undertake blended learning in a mass scale. This, according to me, will be the biggest challenge for the coming years.
For 40 years, the US-led global economy has produced an enormous improvement in human welfare. The percentage of the world's population living on less than $1.90 per day falling from 42% to 10%. At the same time, income inequality has surged in countries with advanced economics. Nowhere has it surged more than the United States, where reliance on free market forces magnifies rewards for those at the top while leaving others behind. In the economic situation, it basically requires a high level of education in order to stay on top. This, however, affects many people coming from poor countries that suffer from high levels of poverty, having that they cannot experience high level of education or do not have access to. This has caused a huge gap between the rich and the poor in countries around the globe. A worldwide shortage of food is on the horizon due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Globally, the UN warns 130 million could face starvation by the end of the year. Due to the pandemic, food production and transportation has been put on hold. Because of this pause in production, all countries around the globe, especially countries in which experience poverty, have been heavily affected. For example, countries like Singapore is already planning on how to increase production by 2030 due to the stop in it. It is advised to not overbuy, however, to allow others to purchase food as well. Although food can be purchased online and delivered directly to your home, the quantity in which is produced is not efficient enough for the whole population. In addition, it is advised to donate to the local food banks in order to help the cause and to donate food to those who really need it.
After a short period of relative calm, there has been an upsurge in crisis listing most countries. If we take a look across the globe, the most prominent crisis we see is China-United States trade war. China-United States trade war is an ongoing economic conflict between the world's two largest national economies and the world's two superpowers, China and the United States. President Donald Trump in 2018 began setting tariffs and other trade barriers on China with the goal of forcing it to make changes to what the US says are unfair trade practices. Among those trade practices and their effects are the growing trade deficit, the theft of intellectual property, and the forced transfer of American technology to China. In spite of several efforts by various organizations such as the UN, WHO, and other bodies, peace and humanitarian response are far from any hope.
Global protests against racism as outrage spreads over the killing of George Floyd, an unarmed African-American man in the police custody in the US. Protesters have taken to the streets around the world. The protests were called in solidarity with America's Black Lives Matter movement. The protesters are also highlighting racism and police brutality in their own countries, with Australians hitting the streets in large numbers. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in London despite calls from politicians not to defy the lockdown because of the COVID pandemic. Authorities have had to close roads around the Parliament Square and are urging demonstrators to maintain physical distancing, and a major European protest is also underway in Berlin.
Civil liberties, human right violation. During COVID-19 pandemic in India, the world's biggest lockdown has forced migrants to walk hundreds of miles home. The poor and the deprived are the worst victims. Another video is showing migrant workers in India being sprayed with a chemical to disinfect from coronavirus. These are against human rights.
As a human resources professional, there have been various challenges which are faced by most companies. And I can definitely say the biggest challenge that we face going forward in 2020 is the fact that the need for quality manpower, the need for quality leadership, and the need for quality talent acquisition. I think these three are the major challenges that any company will face in the year 2020. Reasons are many. One is COVID epidemic has taught many companies new ways to create models of on manpower deployment, and the fact that we have huge challenges in the way in which people are deployed, utilization of their skill sets, improving their capabilities and capability building. In addition to this, I think what is most important is that how do we look at the element of measuring people in terms of what they're doing. So I think that's also going to undergo huge changes in terms of what gets measured and what is it that how is performance appraisal going to be looked upon as a way of managing the culture of the organization. So these are all the challenges which, when you look at 2020, which human resources professionals work. So I think we need to look into these angles very carefully and take a concerted decision in terms of how we look at our talent going forward. Thank you.
As an entrepreneur, I see three big challenges this year thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. First challenge that I see is with respect to cash flow. Across sectors, across countries, liquidity is a big issue. The second challenge is with respect to employee wellness. These are times where all employees are working from home and all their interactions are only on the virtual platform, which means that there is no physical interaction, and also there's a lot of fear about the future thanks to the uncertainty around. So it is important to focus on employee wellness and ensure all employees are positive so that they can be productive. The third big challenge that I see is with respect to business flow. There is a change in the buying pattern. A lot of disruption has happened in terms of the buying behavior of the consumers. So all companies need to ensure that they continue to be innovative and ensure the consumers end up buying their service or product.
Coronavirus or COVID-19 has had a catastrophic effect on the lives of humans living across this planet. Business organizations, political governments of the globe are forced to change their normal working style in order to stay safe and start work. I work for a marketing team at a tech firm, and we do face some challenges as well during this phase. Some of them include clients are taking a normal, longer decision-making process time. This includes certain technological decisions that has to be made by the organizations, financial decisions, so as to is the cost involvement needed at this point of time during the epidemic? Is it essential right now to go ahead with this decision? All these things lead to a delayed decision-making process which affects the business continuity plan for certain projects for an organization. Another thing is the security aspect of the tools that we work at. Information overload, rumors and misinformation also makes us feel out of control and makes it unclear so as to what to do.